Hello and welcome to another video in my Web API.NET Basics series. As always, go ahead and follow me on GitHub, visit my website, and if you have any questions, email is there. So in the previous video, I talked about the Web API portion. I explained how majority of these videos, majority of the development will happen in the backend because this course is skewing very much on the backend development side of things because that is what I'm kind of good at. But at the same time, we can't just building a backend is not going to be sufficient. Okay, I mean, I won't be able to build any great front end with React with animations and cool stuff and everything, but I still want to showcase what I am building. For example, we'll be building a simple e-commerce project. I explained to you the two projects that we'll be building. So there, we do want this, something, even if it looks very, very dull and old, at least it's a functional e-commerce app. So which means we have to use some kind of front-end technology, and for that we'll be using the ASP.NET Core MVC Web App project. Right, that is what we are going to do. Now this one, let's go ahead and do that right away. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio and let's create a new solution. Okay, and here again I'm going to go and then I'm going to go to web, and you see there are so many options here. There's something called Blazor Web App, which is a more new thing from Microsoft, but I'm not using Blazor. I don't know how to work on Blazor, although it looks very similar to Razor if you ask me, but it probably is very different. There you go. There are a lot of other options here. Now what I'm looking for is ASP.NET Core Web App with Razor pages, because that is the one which I'm very comfortable with. I'm not a front-end guy, so I just want a basic front end which is functional, even if it doesn't look very attractive and doesn't have modern features like React or something. So yeah, I'm happy with Razor pages for the sake of the training. There you go. Now as usual, go ahead, give it a title. So I'm going to say hello world, Razor pages web app. Okay, and next, again, just like last time, .NET 8, authentication type none, HTTPS, and create. Now here, this is a good chance for me to do a little bit of explanation about MVC. So let's get to it. So see, in Microsoft projects, MVC is the preferred way of doing things. And in fact, the MVC is the preferred way of doing things in so many different type of technologies, not just in .NET. So what happens in MVC is you have three things. You have the controller, and then you have the view, and then you have the models. Yes. So models have everything to do with databases. That is, database models. That's where the word comes from. Okay. And the view is where you see things. For example, in the previous video, in a way, the Swagger UI itself is like a view, because you're able to send input and then get information and see the information. So you could say that is kind of like a view. But of course, in an MVC web app, as you'll see in a few minutes, the view is actually a website with different pages and stuff like that. And of course, so view could be in my own way, I think the Swagger UI itself is the view. The Razor pages that we'll see now is the view. Or if tomorrow you might build a React app that consumes this the API, that becomes the view. So you could have the MVC where the V is coming from React or Vue.js, and majority of the time in .NET, AngularJS is the preferred or the popular replacement for using Razor pages. A lot of projects are built using Razor pages, like including my demo project. But when you want something modern, mobile friendly and stuff like that, especially in .NET, what I have seen is usually it is the M and the C is .NET, but the V is Angular. Or in the last few years, a lot of companies are also choosing to go with either React.js and in some cases Vue.js. So V can be anything. So that is really the MVC architecture. The controller acts as an intermediary between the view and the model, and that's really where you get the word MVC. Although when you look at the drawing, you might be thinking, shouldn't it be MCV, because that's how this is linked. But I guess MCV doesn't sound as cool as MVC, although I mean, I don't know. Who am I to decide on these things? That is what it is. It just sounds great, I guess. Model view controller. I guess that's just how these things go. So that is MVC for you. You know, obviously there's a lot of literature about MVC online. You can probably read about it. But for me, I just need to know the basics. That's all I care about. So this part is fine. 1 second. Sorry about that, there was a disturbance. Okay, so that's all MVC is all about. Now, in the web API, you know, we saw MVC already, but it's a little bit more easier to see the MVC in action in the Razor pages. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me get this Visual Studio here. Now, there you go. So here, oh, hold on. This is the one without MVC. Oh, I opened the wrong one. There you go. See, as I mentioned, I'm recording these videos raw. I'm not doing editing. I don't have an editor. So if I make a mistake, it's going to stay there. So this is not MVC. Oh, hold on. I'm looking for MVC. Oh, hold on. What I want is MVC, ASP.NET Core Web App. There it is, Model View Controller. So let me try to find that. MVC. That's the one I want. The one I opened earlier, that was not MVC. So we're not using that. We are using this. So let's go ahead and open that. So there we go. Let's go ahead and click on next. Okay, this is going to be hello world, MVC, Razor Pages, Web App. Okay. Same. Okay, create, and there it is. So you can see here, as I explained in the drawing a minute ago, you have the model, which will eventually end up linking itself with the database. Now, in our series of videos and in our project, we are using Entity Framework. I mean, I will be explaining Entity Framework in a bit, but what I'm saying is in our projects and in our tutorials, what we are doing is we have our M, which is the database model, and eventually this has to connect with the database. Now, if you want to, you can connect your model directly to the database. That option is always there. But what we are going to do is we are going to take this model and connect it to the EF core system. And the EF core system will then connect with the database. Now, why are we doing it? Because, I mean, for me, again, I'm focused on the beginner and beginner developer system. So in the beginning of part of your developer journey, I want you to not worry too much about the database. And EF core library is really good. Yes, there is a performance loss, you know, just like in real life. I always think of EF core as an agent. You know, EF core is like an agent who is acting on your behalf. So instead of talking directly to the database, you are talking to the database through the EF core. So there will always be a performance loss. There is no denying the performance loss. But again, we are just early developers, and a lot of big projects use EF core on production level anyway. So we are sticking it with EF core. So which means our model, the database model, will actually not talk to the database directly. It's going to talk through EF core, and we'll worry about EF core in a future chapter. So coming back, that's what the model is. Right now, you'll see that there is no database in this project. So but we're just going to assume that eventually this model, the database model, will end up linking it up with the database. So that is the M of MVC. And then we have the controller, and you see here again the controller. Hopefully you will remember from the previous video, the API controller had a attribute called API controller, but this one is just controller. So that is a big difference there. That's the controller. You can see a lot of views and stuff like that. We will look into that in a few minutes. And finally, you have the actual view, which is nothing but the CS HTML file. So it is HTML, but enhanced by C#. So it is a mix of, you'll see here that it is not just HTML, you'll see some C# also happening. So it's a combination of C# and HTML at the same time. So how these work together, we'll figure out, we'll see in a few minutes. Okay, and as usual, you have app settings, as usual, your program.cs, where you can do some dependent injection, connecting the services, connection strings, secret keys, and all that. All the things we'll see as the tutorials continue. So, but first, let's see how this MVC works here, right? So let's try to rebuild this. Okay, and then we are going to wait for that, and we are going to run this, and we have the web app running. Now, as I said, it's a very old school technology. It doesn't look as cool as React.js or Angular.js. So I'm not a front-end developer. I mean, I know JavaScript, I know React.js, but I'm not a front-end guy. So I'll stick to using this very old basic technology. And I want you to know, a lot of companies use this, especially in the early stage of learning. You start with this, and later you learn React or Angular or Vue or whatever else is out there. So here you can see, right? Every time you go to a page, that page loads. So it's not like React. It can get very slow and frustrating. So first thing is, what I will do is, I'll come here. Now you see here that the path is called privacy. Now I want to go to home. So I'm going to go to my controller. Home is the name of the controller, and there is a function called index. So if I put a breakpoint here and I click on home, that is where it gets triggered. So home is linked to index method, and that is where the view is coming from. And there you go. Now, if I want to go to privacy, then I go to home controller. There will be a function called privacy, and there it is. So I'm going to go ahead, put a breakpoint here, and I click this here on privacy. That will get, oh, the source file change. Oh, I made a change accidentally, I think. So let me click on OK. Oh, I did do something, and it works anyway. It's fine. Let me just reload this. Click continue, and we are in privacy. I click on home. There you go. I click on privacy. This gets triggered. So that is how the controller is linked up with the view. So whichever controller you're going to, that specific method will have a file. Look at this. There's a method called index. There's a file called index. There is a method called privacy. There's a file called privacy. That is how the linking works. So let's make some changes here. So what I'll do is, I'll put the Visual Studio Code on one side. I'll put the Chrome on the other side. Let's see if this works. Now there is a new feature which came a few years ago. It is called hot reload. So we'll try to use that. So I'm going to close this diagnostic tools. I'm going to click on continue. And what I'll do is, I'll remove the breakpoints for now, disable it, not delete it. And I'll go to this file, index.html, and here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just add a new div. So I'm going to say div, and I'm going to say hello, and then I'm going to hot reload this. I'll go to home, and there it is. So it's very, very simple, but you have no idea how this simple knowledge will become useful to you later. Okay, and here I can go ahead and just copy paste this a bunch of time just to see how it works. There we go. Okay, that is the connection between the index C# file. So whatever you do there will obviously come up in the output. Now in React Angular, obviously the moment you type and save, and it will come immediately. So yes, there's a page that does not have such advanced quality. So I am really sorry. That is what it is. Okay, but for me, this is what I use in all my projects. I've been using Razor Pages for 10 plus years now, and I like the simplicity of it. So we're going to stick to use it. The next thing I want to do is, where is all this menu coming from? So that's another thing we shall be using a lot. So let's look into it. There's a file called layout under shared. So I'll go to layout, and here is your link navigation. So once again, I'm just going to copy this and simply paste this a bunch of times. Hard reload this, and there it is. And I can change the title just to show you. So I'm going to call this something. I'm calling this Batman. I'm calling this Wonder Woman. Right? So I click on this, the title should change. But if I click on Wonder Woman, it still go to privacy though, because there's no page called Batman or Wonder Woman. So let's try to do that. Let's try to add a simple page and see if it works. So I'm going to stop running this project. And what I'll do is, I will go to home, and I'll just copy this privacy. I'm just going to call this Batman. Now here the spelling is very, very important. So if I say Batman here, I want to go my keyboard. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I have a view called Batman. That's fine, but I don't have the page yet. Right, so what I'll do is I'll take this exact spelling. Now spelling is very important. That's how the mapping happens. And I'll come here and I'll add a file called Batman. Spelling, again, make sure the spelling is correct. Now this is empty right now. So what I'll do is I don't want to keep it empty. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'll just put this here. And the title, I'm going to change this to Batman. And here I am going to say I am Batman. You know, I can even go to Wikipedia and get an image of Batman. So let me just say Batman 1989 movie Wikipedia. There we go. Let me see if there's any images here. Oh, there you go. Let's put the Joker. Oh, it's too small. More details. Oh, it's all small. No. Okay, I guess there's not much we can do if all of them are small. So let's go ahead, go to more details. Let's go to poster. Yeah, this is the URL. So I'm gonna come here. I'll come back to my code and I will just put this image and I'm gonna say img source is equal to image. So now I have in the controller, I have the home controller where I have a view called Batman, and I have a file exactly called batman.chshtml. I've already put the navigation in layout.chshtml, but here there's something called ASP action. I need to update that as well. So I'm going to take this word Batman, come back to layout file, take this ASP action. There we go. And now let's see if it works. Okay, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake, and I'll try to fix it. So there we go. Let's go ahead and run this. There it is. I'm going to click on Batman and whoa, it works. So that is the story with the Razor pages. Now this is again just the very, very basic, just to get you a handle of things. I hope you will go ahead and spend some time, experiment, look around, get used to this as well. And the same thing with the previous video, get used to the basic template of the web API also, because you will be spending a lot of time in these things. There are two projects I already made videos about it. You already seen those projects. They are both fairly complex, especially for your first internship or your first job. They are fairly complex and advanced concepts are being used. So the more comfortable you get with this layout, especially in Visual Studio Code, the better will be your learning experience. So that is the introduction that I wanted to do for the MVC Web App. I talked to a little bit about Razor pages, the layout file. We are already using Bootstrap. It's already linked. We don't have to add it or anything. The navbar navigation, new pages, views and controls, and finally the MVC architecture. So that is where I'm going to wrap it up with this video.